who are extremely overweight could be given the same legal status as those with a disability.
The European Court of Justice is due to make a ruling on a case brought by a Danish man who claims he lost his job as a childminder because of his weight.
Mr. Kaltoft, who weighed 25 stone, took his case through the legal system in Denmark. It referred it to the higher court, and a decision by the court to change the law could mean that British companies will have to class obese workers as disabled and provide them with larger seats, special parking spaces and other such facilities.
Well, let's talk about this now with Nima Chowdhury, who specialises in discrimination law. You've not dealt so far with a case involving obesity as such, have you?
No, I haven't dealt with a case involving obesity as such at the moment. There aren't that many that come along, but this case does have quite significant impact because 25% of the UK population is deemed to be obese, and in fact a report by McKinsey Global indicated that the cost of obesity is on par with smoking and actually armed conflict. So if you think of the consequences and the cost involved, if the ruling is that obesity is a disability per se, it will put a much bigger obligation on employers because you would have a duty to carry out reasonable adjustments to accommodate people if they have a disability.
So 1 in 4 people, 25% of people are classed as obese. So if we whittle it down and assume then that 1 in 4 of those who are employed are obese, that means that 25% of the workforce for every business has to be accommodated for, and this is going to cost money. And those who aren't obese are going to say, or may well say, well, what about me?
Well, under the Equality Act, it's not less favourable treatment to treat a disabled person better than somebody who isn't disabled. I think the key, though, with this case is that the likely outcome is to be that obesity isn't a disability per se, that you'll have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So just because somebody is obese doesn't automatically mean that they would have protection. The court would look at the impact it has upon their ability to carry out day-to-day activities.
How sympathetic and what kind of legal problems do you see? How sympathetic do you think someone who isn't obese in the workforce, who isn't getting, say, the benefits or the extra treatment, would feel about this? In the same way that perhaps someone would feel about the medical problems of a smoker if I hadn't chosen to smoke. You know, there are issues that are going to be brought up, aren't there?
There are, because people often think that if somebody's obese then it must be their fault, they should take more exercise, and that isn't always the case. And you know, it's not for us to make judgments about people's conditions, but you're right, it could lead to, you know, a negative morale and employees not feeling happy. But also employers need to consider then when somebody is off sick, you know, what are the reasons why they're off sick? If they're going to performance manage them, you know, why is it that they can't do their job? Can they do anything to help them? In the case that you mentioned, the employer said he couldn't do his job as a childminder, and one of the examples that they gave was he couldn't tie the shoelaces of the children that he was looking after without the help from a colleague. But I think my view is that the court will not say that obesity is a disability in all cases. You will have to look at it on a case-by-case basis and consider the impact on the actual individual. I mean, other conditions which have been related to obesity are already covered. So if you think of type 1 diabetes or other forms of diabetes, that can often occur because of obesity, and they would potentially have protection under the disability legislation anyway.
Nima, thank you very much for your time this morning. Nima Chowdhury, who's a specialist in disability law. Thank you.
Thank you. That decision out later today.